Welcome to the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast, where we empower through innovation. I'm Allison Lacoussiere, your host, and each week we'll explore the mindset and the skill set of creating a successful practice and life for women in business. From the latest in dental technology to mastering marketing strategies, creating team synergy, cultivating a powerful money mindset, this podcast is your resource to empower yourself and your team to have the most success possible. Whether you're an established business professional or just beginning your journey, we're here to help you unlock your full potential, lead with confidence, and have an incredible journey along the way. Welcome to the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast. Welcome to another episode of Women in Digital Dentistry. It is Allison Lacoussiere here, your host, and I am with the incredible Marla Merritt. Marla, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Allison. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. So Marla is the VP of Strategic Partnerships for OrthoFi and Accept Care. And I got introduced to her years ago, but we were able to connect this year more deeply and just share our passion around empowering mostly women, but all individuals in the dental industry to achieve greater levels of success. And so I'm excited to have you on as just a powerful woman in business who is inspiring so many people to really understand your journey and how you kind of got to the position that you're in and why empowering women and our dental industry is so important to you. So why don't we start there? Like, what makes you passionate about the work that you do?
Well, I have been obviously in the dental industry for a very long time. And so hang on, I'm going to stop right there. What makes me passionate about the work I do? I thought you were going with tell me a little bit about your story. So I was like thinking where I was going to start my story. Passionate. um, okay. Okay. So I'll just start with answering your question. Okay. So, Allison, really, the thing that I'm most passionate about is working alongside individuals who want to provide awesome customer support and success, as well as just have a great time doing it. So, my journey began over 20 years ago in the dental industry when about 5 friends and myself started a company called OrthoBank. And that journey lasted about 20 years before we sold that company to OrthoFi. And along those 20 years, we were able to make a huge difference in our customers' practices while just really having a great time. I remember we did a video, preparing a video for OrthoBank one time where we interviewed a lot of different employees. And I think we interviewed about 40 employees. We had about 115 when we sold. And it's like, without any prompting, every one of them said, OrthoBank is like family. And that's really what we were able to build. And, a lot of times you hear, oh, this is a business, you're not family. And I do believe it's really important to do the right thing by business. But I also really believe you can become powerfully connected to the people that you work with if you all have like-minded goals, like-minded, work ethics, but different strengths. And so that's really what I'm passionate about, is doing something that really makes a difference to your customers, but also bringing along a great team for the ride.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And one of the reasons why I was so excited to work with you was just because I felt this like cool confidence with you. Like when I very first met you, I'm like, she's a badass. Like she works in the financial sector with like primarily men, I'm assuming. And you really hold a powerful presence in your role. And I've really been excited to learn from you and connect with you further because of that. And so what have been some of the ways that you have been able to be successful in this position? Like really you're working in a predominantly male-led sector of business, and yet you just handle everything with such grace and ease. What have been some of like the things you've learned along the way or some of your skills around that?
That's so funny that you bring up kind of the male dominated portion of this, because I was one of the 5 original people with OrthoBank, it never felt that way. For 20 years, we were organically growing a business and 2 of us were women, but we never really thought we were treated any differently. And then, when OrthoFi purchased us, I was working with a whole new set of men, all of them, wonderful men to work with, but they had different skill sets than I did. And they didn't know the skill set that I brought to the table. And frankly, that was tough to navigate. It's been about 3.5 years now that we've worked together. And I think I'm on the other side of it. But it's when you go into an organization that's very data driven, and you have run your entire career on relationships and that kind of customer success model, it was a big adjustment for me. And there were many times I thought, I don't know if I'm even going to make it. I don't know if I'm qualified for this. But I keep going back to, I'm part of the dental entrepreneurial women. And we make a big focus on talking about strengths and each person's individual strengths. And I do have achiever in my top 5, but I also have a lot of relationship qualities. And I do not have, let's talk about data, in my arsenal of strengths. But once I kind of just owned that and learned, like, yes, these 6 people that I work with on the executive team, they're much stronger than me in data, but I'm not going to let that intimidate me. I'm going to bring what I have to bring to the table, which are my relationships that I've built over many years, and being able to make people feel comfortable. And that is a strength. And so I've been able to bring that to what you said, like, is typically male dominated, but these men want to feel comfortable too. When they're on a call, they want to feel like they can trust you, that you're not trying to just be one of the salespeople trying to take them for a ride. So I think I've been able to take that strength and make it something that matters with where I'm working now.
Love that. I think it's important as a woman in business. The business world wasn't built for women. It was built for men because men were the ones that were in the business world way longer than we have been in the business world. And yet, as the world has changed, there are a new set of strengths and skills that are absolutely imperative and critical to the success of organizations. And so I love that you reframed the question, which I know so many women, like as a coach, I get to kind of crack into high performing women's mind is, am I qualified? Am I good enough? Am I ready? Am I able to do this? And your reframe of like, am I qualified? Well, yes, I am, because I have all of these strengths that are actually going to bring a really balanced perspective to this team. And I think that's the way that we get to move forward and grow and stay resilient through challenging changes and challenging times. So I think we can all really learn from that perspective. And I really feel we need to adopt it more of like, stop asking ourselves, am I qualified? And start asking, what are my strengths that are going to help me rise above this?
Yeah, and it never even crossed my mind when we were kind of coming together. I thought businesses were all run the way that I'd, been running our business at OrthoBank. And so the change when I began to see these different thinking people, and the whole learning about the data and how to take that and bring results for our customers and for our teams, it was a very big learning curve for me. But what a great thing to be at this stage in my career and learning really a whole new world. And it's opened doors for me as well, that it makes me feel smarter, like I've been able to learn things as a result of where I've landed. And if I would have said, no, either no, they're too smart for me, or no, I can't do that, like it would have stopped me from from where I've been able to go just in the years that I've been even at OrthoFi. So it's been fun, but I had to open my mind up to, old dog, new tricks kind of thing.
Yeah. I love it. And I think sometimes we can often take ourselves out of the game before we need to we out ourselves. We're like, oh no, 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 I'm not whatever. Like, but if we just like lean in and be like, what can I learn? How do I get curious? What can I bring to this? And there's this statistic that talks about the way that men and women separately will apply for a job. A man will look at something and be like, well, I'm 100% not fully qualified for this, but I'm going to apply anyways. Where women are like, I am 99% qualified, but that 1%, I'm not going to apply. And it's like this recognition, like we don't have to be perfect to start, and we don't have to know all the answers to be extremely valuable. And in fact, it probably is a good thing if you're different from your team because you're bringing a totally different skill set to them that will balance them out. So,
Mhm.
so much to be learning. There's so much to learn in this. And, I think what my goal is with women in digital dentistry is that we see more women in leadership positions. We see more women rise up to the occasion and not check themselves out because it's, I don't know if I can cut it here. Yes, I can. And I'm going to try and I'm going to learn and it's going to be fun and I'm going to bring my strengths to it. So I think it's just very inspiring.
That's funny. The story you just said about, how women and men apply for jobs differently. I actually experienced that. I'd not heard that story, but I was talking to a consultant in the orthodontic industry, and I had seen where she had posted that she needed a new consultant, and I just looked at the job thing because, I'm always like, especially at the beginning of OrthoFi, I was like, is this where I'm going to end up fitting? And I was looking through there, and it was like, you have to have experience working in an orthodontic office.
Mhm.
And so I joked when we were having dinner a few months later, I said, yeah, I looked at that job description and I don't, I didn't qualify, but I'm real happy at OrthoFi now. And she's like, you're kidding me with that. I didn't qualify, right? Like, everything about this industry. And so I just want to encourage people with that story. Like, that is so true. We do that to ourselves. We check ourselves out if we're missing just one thing on that list or two things. But our experience, our work ethics, our personality, like there's other things that come to play that, just don't count yourself out.
Yeah. Don't like let them tell you no. You know what I mean? Like let someone else tell you no, and that's okay. I think that's been one of the biggest ways that I have grown so much over the last 5 years since starting my company because I created this mindset of like, you know, it doesn't hurt to ask and I can create something even if nobody else has created it before. Like I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. Let's see how it goes. And just the other day I actually like asked a marketing company to, cover some of my content and they like got on the call with me like, Allison, this is $100,000 ask. Like they were kind of like, you're so brazen to even ask us to do this for you for no cost. And I was like, with three other men on the call, I was like, doesn't hurt to ask. And then like glad we're still friends. And what's the worst that can happen by you putting yourself forward, putting yourself out there, raising your hand and saying like, I think I could do it. Or is that possible? Can you help me with this? The worst somebody can say is no, but let them tell you no. And don't like count yourself out of the race before, you've decided you're not qualified.
Yeah, one of the quotes that I have lived my life by is that the answer to an unasked question is always going to be no. And so very much like what you're saying, you got to put the question on the table.
Yes, 100%. What would you say have been, you're in a really incredible position in the company that you're in and, your journey through all of this, I'm sure you've learned so much as just how to be a woman in business, how to be successful. What are some other kind of tips or, mindset strategies that you've had that you've learned over the years that have really served you?
So one of the things, another kind of life philosophy that I've always lived by is that all things are cumulative.
Mhm.
And the way that you do anything really matters. Like, you know, every single thing that you do along the way. So sometimes that can cause me to almost go down a rabbit hole because I find it tough to say this one thing matters more than the other when I'm prioritizing. So I would say that life philosophy of that all things matter is very true. But one of the things that I've learned in these last 3 years is that it does all matter. But if you're trying to do every single thing, probably nothing is going to get done at its best. And so one thing that the team at OrthoFi is really good about is, it's every year at the beginning of the year, we come with a list of these are the 3 things that we're going to do. Like, and there's only 3 things that are they're like our overarching objectives. And so if you are trying to decide what to do today and it doesn't fit into one of those 3 buckets, then that tells you, is it priority or not? Because we're going to make sure that the whole company has decided, like, these are the 3 things that matter most. So let's make sure those things get done. And then everything else is still important, but let's make sure at the end of the day, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, we're all proud that we accomplished something really big because we decided this was what was going to move the needle the most. And so to take it back even smaller, I had an interview with a customer, probably about a year ago. And when I got on the call with him, he was just sick. Like he was obviously very sick. And I said, you didn't have to take this call today. I'm so sorry you're sick. And he said, you were on my top 3 this week. And he said, I was determined that, yeah, he said, every week I make a list of 3 things that if I get nothing else done this week, these 3 things I will feel like, but these 3 things, and I'll feel like I've accomplished what I needed to accomplish this week. And so, he and I had been trying to connect for a while. And so even though he was sick, he was going to make it happen because that was on his list. And so that's helped me a lot too. Like, okay, I've got 1,000 things on my plate, but I want to feel at the end of the week like I accomplished something. So what's that going to be? And really being conscious about that as you move into every single week.
I love that so much. Oh my gosh. That's something I need to start doing immediately because I am such a fast-paced person that even like by the end of the week, I could be like, wow, I accomplished like 100 things. But were out of that 100 things, was it the 3 things that really mattered and really moved the needle? And I think sometimes we can give ourselves like, because the list always adds up, like there's more always to do. There's always more to do. But if we don't acknowledge, like, yes, we crushed it with those 3 things. Those are the 3 things that mattered. We got those done. Then, like,
Celebrate.
what is your measure of success if we're never going to look back and say, like, yes, we did those 3 things? So that's really, really powerful, especially in today's world where it feels like everyone is so busy. Everyone
Mhm.
is so busy. It's like, what is really important?
Mhm. I don't remember the name of the movie, but there's a Sarah Jessica Parker movie where she's just like this busy working mom and she keeps talking about the list. And her husband's like, where even is the list? What list are you talking about? And I watched that movie with my husband and I was like crying by the end of it. I'm like, I know the list. I know what list she's talking about, that eternal list in your head. He finished that movie. He goes, I am exhausted. Like, what even was this movie? He said, he said, I'm just worn out even watching this movie. And it's because they have this way of like, their list is a lot shorter. And I don't know that it's that they have that many fewer things as much as they get it that these are like they're able to prioritize maybe a little more, or I don't know what it is, but there's definitely a difference in women and men here because he gets exhausted when I say I've got to do 5 things today. So there is definitely some kind of difference there. But we got to look up that Sarah Jessica Parker movie, it's awesome.
Oh my gosh,
It's so us.
so true. And like I'm the exact same way compared to my partner where I'm just like I'm literally changing topics and moving like this is thing, this thing, this thing. And he's like, this is what's important to me right now. And I was like, huh, how peaceful. That's really,
Isn't that a nice life?
really beautiful. Like how profound. And so like this is something that we chatted about even before our podcast started, but I really believe that women in digital dentistry, like we are for women, we are about women, but we love our men. We need our men. They are so important to us. And it's interesting. I did a podcast series last year and I got to interview like some of the top women in dentistry, like yourself, who have like just risen to some really high levels of achievement. I asked them like, what was one of your biggest successes? And I was floored at the time learning, they said, my husband, my partner, my significant other, like I couldn't have done it without him. And I was like, wow, this is really, really a beautiful message because, we're always like independent, strong women, career driven women, and we're also relationship driven, we're connection driven. We get to rely and be supported by someone. So I was absolutely, I see just the way that, you know, as women who are high intensity, high performance, high energy, like we can sometimes take on kind of like that masculine sense of like go, 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 do, do, do. And yet like we need to balance that with our feminine energy as well. Like being taken care of, being like soft with our partners. And I think that's just a beautiful part of being a woman in business is that we are multifaceted and we do get to be supported and cared for, even though we're taking on the world and crushing everything and, you know, being that badass in the boardroom. So I just love to hear those stories. Tell us a little bit as we wrap up this podcast. And thank you, Marla, for sharing these lessons with us. I believe so strongly that women get to learn and grow from each other, and also from example. Like for me to see you in the position that you're in, it gives me the knowledge that that's so possible for other women to, you know, rise to these VP positions, to be able to make such big influential changes in companies. And I think like that's something we really need to recognize as women. Like our success allows others to know it's possible for them. And so you do such a great job with that of like just holding your role with such grace and kindness and just badassery. And you inspire so many people around you just by being you. So thank you for sharing all your stories.
You. Thank you very much.
And tell us a little bit about OrthoFi and Accept Care. If any of the doctors listening want to just get in touch with you to learn a little bit more about those platforms, I'm personally super excited about the ways that they are transforming the industry and just finding ways to be able to support our practices even further to grow. So just share with our audience how they can get a hold of you.
Awesome. Okay. So really the whole mission of OrthoFi is to start more smiles. That's our underlying mission of everything. And it's really important to us that we are connecting more patients with quality dental and orthodontic care. So our solutions are, you know, case acceptance software that brings together the financing component, because we really believe that affordability is such a huge factor in whether a patient moves forward with treatment. So we would love to speak with you about the OrthoFi and Accept Care solutions. You can reach out to me at marla.merritt@orthofi.com. Some people have heard my story. You know, I'm very passionate about this, starting more smiles through affordability, because as a single mom of four daughters, I actually was faced with about $20,000 of dental work for my child. And there were no options. You know, it was just like, this is the price, and either you can afford it or you can't. I was just kind of left with this hole in my heart that I couldn't afford treatment for my daughter. And they could have done a really better job of that, and I would have moved forward. I could have afforded a monthly payment. You know, I had a great job, but I had four young children and I didn't have $20,000 in the bank, you know? And so had they just been open and flexible and provided options, it could have made a difference in my child's life. It could have made a difference in the way I felt about myself that day and that year. And as I watched her dental growth over the years. So I am very passionate about starting more smiles and connecting patients with affordable and quality dental and orthodontic care. So again, my email address is marla.merritt@orthofi. That's OrthoFi.com. And would love to connect you with, you know, the right people to show you what all we can do.
I love that. Thank you so much, Marla, and thank you for sharing that story. And I think it's something we really have to think about from that provider perspective is like, how do we help our patients get the care that they need in
Right.
a way that makes sense for their budget? And it's when I say like when it makes sense for their budget, it is different for everybody, and it's not bad, it's not good. It's just like let's meet our consumers where they are and give them the support that they need. So thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for being such an inspiration to our industry. Thank you for being on the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast. Thank you for being a supporter of women in digital dentistry. And for all of you out there, if this message resonated with you, if you feel there's anyone that needs to hear it or meet Marla, please, please, please send them this episode. Subscribe to the podcast, share the mission of Women in Digital Dentistry, and we will see you on our next episode. Bye. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Women in Digital Dentistry. We hope you found today's discussion inspiring and full of actionable insights to help you thrive in your practice and beyond. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. And if you know someone who would benefit from these conversations, please share this podcast with them. We would love to hear your thoughts and feedback, so feel free to leave us a review or connect with us on social media. Together, we are building a powerful community of women leading the way in digital dentistry. Until next time, keep innovating, keep growing, and keep making a difference in the world of dentistry. Thanks for listening.